speaking as one myself, like, and knowing how I did 23 years in corporate America, it's working hard drive, barely taking breaks, really having high standards. Everything I did the best. And at a certain point of time, there needs to be literally some pauses to see what else can emerge, and seeing what else do we want to create here. Consciousness and conscious leader, that term in and of itself can be either misconstrued or feel woo-woo or inaccessible. So I break it down to conscious being around being awake and not living in automatic numbing or patterns where you don't even have choice. So consciousness simply meaning waking up, and leader being taking responsibility for your life and the results you're creating. So it's not about, one of the executives I'm working with right now as a client, there was some feelings that she was having that the company isn't recognizing her as a leader because she's not getting promoted. And I said, well, how do you know that they don't think of you as a leader? And do you think of yourself as a leader? And that's where it starts, is just realizing that we are all the leaders of our own lives and the results that we create. So that's the first piece, is having a growing awareness of waking up to our own creation in our lives. And then when I go into an organization, it's working with individuals and then ultimately teams.
That's so beautiful. And it's so true, because, coming from being a workaholic myself, when you're just like doing the motions, life tends to become a blur. And some days you wake up and you're like, what am I doing? You don't even know if you even recognize that. And there was a period of time I didn't, and I could totally see how, when you get so on point with the tasks at hand or whatever, that consciousness or that awakeness, awareness, those words can go out the door. And then I think, and now this is my opinion now, like now being on the other side of this and having more consciousness and awareness in my life, is that I'm more effective. I'm getting more done. So sometimes that woo-woo part you brought up, it's like, oh, I don't have time for that. I remember even when I first started meditating and I was still working like crazy, my wife said, what, now you're going to meditate more time away from the family, it was like, and I had to veto that. Like, I just knew in my heart that I needed to do that. And it was the best thing, because I ended up getting more time in my life because I was able to quiet things enough to see what was going on. So this is like a beautiful thing. I can only imagine the organizations you go into, like how that can open up. So once you open that up, just to speak to that a little bit, like what are some of the results that happen when this awakeness happens?
Oh, well, it's so exciting. It varies from transforming combativeness. Like, a lot of times companies are hiring me because they want their teams to get along better. They want different results. They want faster progress. They want more creativity. Like, this is why companies are generally reaching out to me and leaders. So that's what starts to happen. And they're having more fun. They are getting along better. There's more peace. There is a greater sense of overall well-being, because face it, I mean, so many leaders are the A-types. They work hard. They have those routines. Speaking as one myself, like, and knowing how I did 23 years in corporate America, it's working hard drive, barely taking breaks, really having high standards. Everything I did the best. And at a certain point of time, there needs to be literally some pauses to see what else can emerge, and seeing what else do we want to create here, and getting off that hamster wheel of the way we've always done it. That sounds trite, but that's a big piece of it too, of what are the patterns that are no longer useful. And so that's what my clients can report back to is, wow, we're doing things in ways that we've never done before. Or we had this issue for 6 months and we solved it in one phone call after the training retreat that we did. So it's those kind of things.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. It reminds me of a story. I can't remember who told it. It's like some famous speaker, and some people might have heard this story, but they're like, someone new came to, I think it was like I don't know if it was Thanksgiving or Easter. I'm kind of going to butcher the story, but the family was cooking like the ham, and they went to the pan and they cut off the one side of the ham and the other side of the ham and then put it in the pan. And then the guest was like, why did you cut the ends of the ham off and like, chuck that aside? It's part of the ham. And they're like, well, that's just always the way we did it. And then the daughter asked the mom, Mom, why do we cut off the ends of the ham? And then the mom's like, I don't know. That's the way your grandma always did it, my mom, and luckily she was there. They're like, Grandma, they went to the next room. Grandma, why do we cut the, she's like, well, I had only a small pan, so I had to cut both ends off so I could fit it in the pan. And then they had no idea. Now they have a big pan and they're still cutting the ends off.
Awesome.
It goes back to this, like, oh my gosh, are we awake? Are we just drones doing what was done before? And does that mean that was the most effective way? It doesn't always. Sometimes it might be the awareness might say, oh, confirmed, that is the good way. Or it's going to be like, oh, wait a minute, there is another way. There's another way.
Yeah. And in that situation, that's completely practical, right? And sometimes, many reasons why habits get formed or ways of relating get established is out of fear. It's like a fear response of, well, what if I get held accountable by the boss? Or what if we don't get enough revenue and we have to do it this certain way? Or what if we have to let people go, or we're not moving things forward enough? So there can be fear that then creates a completely different mental response that has usefulness in a certain way, but then also is very limiting. So it's looking at the mindset to establish where are we operating from choice and where we're operating from sheer fear. And not often do people have that awareness or even want to admit it.
Right.
It takes a lot for a leader to say, like, I actually feel scared.
Absolutely. Especially, many of the CEOs I know, and all C-level, like chief marketing officers, all of them that have a P&L that they're responsible for, then it's alone is the word that comes up the most when I actually get into that intimate conversation, because they can't go to their boss, whether it is the CEO or the board, right? Mm-hmm. They don't reveal that because of fear, right? It comes like that because, oh, am I going to look weak? Am I going to be able, blah, 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 all those things load up. And then you don't want your staff, your team to know, because then that also could look weak and then you're not leading. And it's all these things that have been taught to us of not being vulnerable, right? And
Mm-hmm.
letting that out. And so then it becomes very, very much embodied, right? Like and I know I've been there, like leading a company and even having investors in some of the businesses I've done. And you just look in the mirror and you can't talk to anyone. So you just look in the mirror, you take a deep breath and you're like, I don't know if I could do this, but I'm going to keep going. And
I'll put the mask back on.
Yeah, that's it. Put the mask on.
Yeah. I'm doing okay. We're doing great. It takes, that's the other thing, is pride and ego that can really get in the way of leaders reaching for help. And so I think sometimes it takes a moment for people to reach those depths of despair, or, as you mentioned, aloneness, like something like, I can't keep doing this, or they're noticing people hurting around them, or they're starting to finally listen to what they're hearing, that they maybe in the past needed to kind of either put blinders on this way or this way to really face things directly. And that takes courage.
Hey there, I want to give you something really big. It's called Clear Path to Customers. It's the way that we get the right language to get the right client. I like to call them your wow clients, so that you can have more results, more revenue, more raving fans, and more referrals. And I want to give this to you absolutely free. And all you have to do is go to stevenapolitan.com to check it out, or you can look at the description here. We'll put the details there. As always, remember, choose gratitude and create freedom.